Hello and welcome everyone to US Cutter's Flexi 21 webinar. We are very honored to have Mr. Jason Stone with us here today. He is with Flexi. He has done all types of work when it comes to maintenance on machines. So he's been a tech and now he's teaching us all about Flexi. So he's got experience in all types of different fields and he is going to be guiding us through all the new features. So without any further ado, I will allow Jason to take over. Thank you again, Jason, for doing this, and go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. I appreciate the introduction and all of you taking time out of your busy schedules to listen about the new features in Flexi 21. Just a little background on me. Like Josh said, I've been in the sign and graphics industry for just about 25 years now. My family bought a sign shop when I was going to school at the University of Utah. And I love telling this story because the name of the sign shop we bought was called Budget 1 Hour Signs. Probably the worst name you could ever name a sign shop. So we had some fun with that, but we started out, we had Flexi, which ironically was on a Mac back then. And I had a GraphTech FC2100 cutter. So cutting vinyl with Flexi, making banners, vehicle graphics, all sorts of things. Then I went to work for a small sign and graphic distributor as a tech manager. So I've worked with Roland, HP, Gerber Edges, all sorts of equipment, and spent the last 6 years at SAI with Flexi software. So I've used it in production. I've used it like you guys are using it out there. So hopefully I can give you guys a little insight and show you some cool things about Flexi. The webinar today, the main purpose here was to kind of show some of the new features in Flexi 21, which are some great features. A lot of the features are kind of specific to different types of printers. We have some applications for small UV printers, some new printers coming with white, working with layers and working with those different channels. So I'm going to go over some of those new features in Flexi, and then I'll throw out a couple of what I call wow features in Flexi that I think are very helpful. My favorite feature that we'll go over towards the end is color matching. So somebody sends in, they need Pantone Red 485 or whatever, you're not getting close. We've got a great tool a lot of people don't know about on how to get that color exactly like you want it. So we'll go over that towards the end here. But let's jump into some of the new features in Flexi 21. We released Flexi 21 in April. We went from 19 to 21. I'm still trying to figure out exactly why we name it 19 and go to 21. Usually it has to do with the year we release it. So Flexi 21 is where we are currently. So we'll start out with some of the new features, kind of in no specific order. One of the biggest things that we did is we went from a 32-bit RIP to a 64-bit RIP, which means we process things faster. It's the easiest way to put it. One thing that going to a 64-bit that we were able to do is we can improve ripping while printing. In older versions of Flexi, you couldn't rip and print simultaneously at the same time. So now with Flexi, we can do that. So before we get into that, though, I'll show you a couple things about my screen here. This is the design side of Flexi. And then we have Production Manager, which is the RIP here. Hopefully most of you are familiar with that. A few things on Flexi that I always do is over here on the right side, we've got what we call our cloud page. It's got some useful tools on there. My favorite one is under Help and Support. We have this knowledge base. If you click on that, it brings up this web page here and all sorts of information you can find here. So on that, color matching, we call that spot color mapping. If I type that in here, I can come in and find all sorts of information about it. I can click on spot color mapping, and later on here, we're going to go over this process in printing out this chart to match colors as precise as we can. So this is a very useful tool. Again, that's over on help support and our knowledge base. The next question I always get about our web page, we'll want to get rid of the design space. Real easy, there's a button here that turns that on and off. One other thing I want to mention while we're going through this webinar to keep an eye on is this right here. This is Design Central. This is kind of the brains of Flexi. And if you think about it, Flexi is really a lot of different programs all bundled up into one program. So notice as I go through things here today, watch Design Central and see how this changes with the different features that we go through. The other one I always open is my fill stroke editor for my colors on there. So these are two tools that I always open on here. So going back to what I mentioned about just a minute ago about 64-bit and ripping while printing, if we go to Production Manager and go up to Edit and my preferences, we have this little button right here now that is called Print While Ripping. So what this gives us the ability to do is, say you're printing a vehicle wrap, instead of having that whole job rip and then sending it to print, you can actually, it'll start printing as soon as it's got information ripped. So kind of speeds up the process on everything. A nice new feature we added into Flexi, and again, real easy in Production Manager. It's under Edit and Preferences and Print While Ripping there. The next thing that I'd like to show you, this is my favorite feature in Flexi 21 that we added. We're going to go back to design here. I'm going to close out this screen, and I'm going to show you a feature that we had in previous versions of Flexi, and then I'm going to show you a new feature, what I kind of call, well, we call it variable data. But what I'm going to open up, I'm going to show you what we have called auto serialization. Auto serialization we've had for a number of years in Flexi, and this is a really neat tool. I show this to people, and I'm always surprised at different ways that you can use this. So this example here is for a university health school, and these are tags that they're going to put on all of their equipment to keep track of it. So these are little, what size are they? I think they're 1.5 inch by 2 inch decals, but this company wants thousands of these, and instead of a number here, they want a barcode on here. So it's really easy to do this in Flexi. First, we're going to create a barcode. So I've already got my text typed in. I'm going to go up to the text tool, and I'm going to go to the barcode tool, and we're going to select barcode 39. This converts my text to a barcode. And then if we go over to Design Central here, you can see it's added a little tab on barcodes here, and I can manipulate the barcode here with different things. A lot of times you just got to experiment in Flexi. So you can see that if we click on this, it makes it a little bit bigger, kind of maxes out at 3 there. But you can see how everything kind of changes the size of that barcode. I've got OCD a little bit, so I always like to align and center things. So once I've moved something around, I'm going to place it here. I'm going to go to Arrange and Align, and I'm just going to vertically center it in my, my design here. And we're going to put a cut line around this as well. So Flexi, it's super easy to do that. You go to Effects, Contour Cut, and you'll see over here on my Design Central, this is a pretty small object, so we're going to do it 0 on there. We want it right along the edge here. You could actually go negative here if you wanted to create a little bleed. So you can see I put my cut line in there. Another way you can do a bleed is I'm going to put it at 0 because I know the exact size of the decal I want. I'm going to hit Apply here, and then I'm going to go to Effects and Outline. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. You can see my outline on here. So we're not going to go, we'll leave it that size. I'm going to click the check mark here, but obviously if I'm doing a bleed, we don't want it black on here. And I want to match the same color that's in here. So I've got that outline selected. I can go to my eyedropper. I can select the red, and that's the same color out there. So now I've created a bleed on here for my decals. Now comes the fun part. We're going to do the auto serialization on here. So like I said, we need to do thousands of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the whole decal, and I'm going to go to arrange and auto serialize. Again, this isn't a Flexi 21 feature. I'm just showing you this one so that we can show you the kind of steroid version of this. So auto serialization is real easy. I'm going to put the number of copies I want on here. We're just going to do 100 for an example right now. I'm going to do 10 columns. The spacing, I'm going to put them 1/4 of an inch away. And then I'm going to select my number here as the item that I want to auto serialize, and I'm going to go to next. In here, you could manually type in the numbers you wanted, or you can click on the auto serialize button. We're going to start at 1,000 here. We're going to go in increments of 1. I'm going to hit OK, and it fills in my auto serialization chart here. So when I go and hit finish, it's going to create all these different decals for me. So I only had to create the one decal and use the auto serialization and created all those different decals. So if we zoom in here, you can see it's got 1,000, 1,001, 1,002. So pretty cool tool. I use this one quite a bit. It saves you a lot of time instead of doing these individually. So now we're going to jump into the Flexi 21 feature. It's called variable data. It's kind of like auto serialization on steroids. So I'm going to close this out. I'm going to open up my variable data. So I've got this example here. I did a business card just because it's got a lot of information on it. So it shows this, how to use this tool. Another way I thought of using this is somebody comes to you and they need to create 18 by 24 inch golf hole sponsors. And each one has a different logo, a different website, a different company on it. You could use this tool as well. So here my example is just a business card. So I've got a bunch of data that I want to create a bunch of these. They're all going to be different. They're going to have a different name, different title, different phone number, email address, location, and a QR code for my email address there. So we created a new tool. It is under, I believe, edit, or is it under arrange? Arrange and oops, where did it go? It disappeared on me. It is edit. Oh boy, now I'm embarrassed. I lost where it went here. Under arrange. I know it's in one of these menus here. What it does is it pops up this toolbar right here. This is my variable data toolbar. I always like to park my toolbars up in my areas up here. So what we're going to do with this is we're just going to select the data that we want to create variable data. So I'm going to use my variable data toolbar. I'm going to convert this to variable data. So over here on Design Central, we're going to call this name. And then this item right here, we're going to call title. Here we're going to do phone number. We're going to do email address here. We're going to call it just email. Here we're going to change this to state. One thing I did find in creating this demo is that when we have data like this where the state and the city are lined up on this, when we create this data right here, we want to make sure, even though I just typed this and centered it, over here on Design Central, we actually want to select the center on here, otherwise it left justifies everything. So we're going to change this one to, oops, if I can select it. So we're going to create variable data here, and this is city. This is my QR code over here. And then this is all typed data, but we can actually import pictures into here, TIFFs, JPEGs, PDFs, whatever you want to on here. So we're going to change this picture as well. So when I select this, we are going to change this to picture. So now I've defined all my variable data on here. So where's all the data going to come from? I have created a spreadsheet that has all the data on here. So what it's going to do is it's going to look for this top line. That's all the data that I input in here. So you'll see name, title, phone, email, state, city, all that. You'll notice I haven't put in the picture here. I'm going to show you how that works. So what we're going to do is our spreadsheet, we're going to save this as tab delineated. So I've already done that. I just wanted to show you the spreadsheet that we created. So now that we've defined everything, we're going to come up here to edit our variable data. And again, you see all the information here. We're going to go to load data file. And I'm going to import my data in here. Now you'll notice that the keyword, I typed in phone number over here. And it's actually, and in the spreadsheet, we just named it number. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of map this to here. So we're going to come up here and we're going to change it to phone. We're going to hit OK, and it inputs all my data in there. Here's the spot for my picture. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to go to all my pictures. So I've got to come in here. I've got all my pictures in here. I'm going to select them all. And then I'm going to drop them in here. So what you want to do on here is you got to be a little careful. You got to make sure that your pictures line up in order with everything here, or you can place them individually here. So it is a little labor intensive, but it works really well. I'm going to close this out. I'm going to hit OK here. And now it's imported all this data on here. We can look at it by going to the preview variable data here. And now I can scroll through each individual, each individual one. So obviously I did something wrong there because it's changing just the picture. I have an idea of what I maybe did on here. I'm going to clear this data out. I'm going to put in, hold on, clear. Always seems like you do this. You do a webinar, it's been working perfect the last few times I went through it, and this time, for whatever reason, it didn't do it like it did. So I'm going to import my data. In here, change this to phone. I'm going to open up my pictures. I'm going to drag those over here, drop those in. I'm going to hit OK. Let's see if we. All right. I'm going to start over here. I apologize about that. Let's see if we can do this real quick. Name, we're going to do title here. We're just going to do number here, do email. State. We're going to do the city here. And our last one, picture. All right, now that I've got everything here, I'm going to go and load my data. I must have typed these wrong. I've had phone, state. Okay, now we're going to drop our pictures. All right, I have faith this is going to work this time here. Here we go here. There we go. So now we're seeing all that information changing on there. I apologize about that. So we can scroll through and see all our different files here. So we created one main file, and you can see down here that I didn't go in and select the center on those. If I would have gone in that text and put the center, these would be centered on there. So that's my variable data here. Another thing that we're going to kind of jump into next, and I'm going to show you with this example here, is we have another tool that we added in Flexi 1 that's a jig support. So if anybody has a small UV printer for printing like golf balls, iPhones, or anything like that, we put in a tool where you can create jigs and drop files in here. It works with variable data, which is really cool. So I'm going to show you how it works with variable data. And then I'm going to jump in to a golf ball example. So I'm going to show you two ways we can do the jig here. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to go ahead and print this. So you can see all my different files on here. And it's important that when we go in here that we apply our variable data on here. And then I'm going to send this over to Production Manager. So over here on Production Manager, it sends my job over. It's loading right now. I've got all my different things on here, but say these were iPhones or something, and we wanted a jig that we were going to place all these in and print that. So what we can do is we can open up this job. And in Flexi 21, we've added this down here. It's Apply Jig Layout. So the way this works is you can come in, you can define a jig. So you can define your jig here, and then you can save it. So I actually have, I thought I had one saved in here. So we're going to create the jig here. So on this roll-in printer, let's see if I picked the wrong one here. Okay, send it to the wrong printer. I apologize, I sent it to the wrong printer. So what we're going to do is we're going to send it to the roll-in, and then we're going to hit send here. So now in Production Manager, it's showing up in my roll-in printer. I've got a roll-in, an HP cutter, and a GraphTech cutter on here. So I'm going to open this up here. And inside my define jig here, I've already defined one that I've saved. So I created this variable data jig. So the platens for my roll-in printer is 14 by 21. My jigs, these individual items here are 4 inches by 6.5 inches. I've put my spacing on here, and then you can print your jig layout if you wanted to. If you wanted to put down like masking on your table, print the layout, and then just place your items on there. That works really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply this jig. And then you can see on here with this printer, you can only print 9 of these at a time. So this line right here represents different sending those jobs over. So what we can do here is we can pause between pages. And then what it's going to do is it's going to print these 9. It's going to pause and then allow you to load on the next group of them here, which I don't have 18 on here. I think we had 16. So that's why it's showing here. But that's the jig layout tool, which saves a lot of time if you do have a UV printer. So we're going to do a little bit differently this time. I'm going to show you an example of doing like golf balls. So what we're going to do is we're going to add all those pictures I had earlier that we did into my variable data. I'm going to add all of those into Production Manager here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all these jobs, and this is a cool feature in Flexi too. You can nest jobs in here. So what I'm going to do is I select everything, I right-click on it, and I'm going to go to Nest Job. What this does is creates a nest job. If you were printing, say, vinyl or anything else, all like that, you can actually nest jobs, and it will put them, all nest them together. It's a really cool feature in Flexi as well. But we're going to use the jig template here. So we're going to set up golf balls this time. So what we're going to do is I don't have one created on here. I'm going to leave the bed like it is. In my jig size, I'm going to do 1.75 to represent golf balls. You could set in some different spacing here. If you wanted to set a margin, And all we're going to do is hit OK here. We're going to hit apply jig, and it's going to center all those little pictures on those golf balls there. So again, this jig support, really cool feature in Flexi One, saves a lot of time if you do happen to have a printer that you could use this on. So that's our jig template support. Next, we're going to get into, we're going to delete this. We'll close out of here. We're going to close this job. Another feature that we have added into Flexi with Flexi 21 is layered support. So if you have, if you're importing jobs in that have been created in Illustrator that have multiple layers on there, we do a better job at supporting those. What we really created this for is printers that have gloss and white in them. There's a few new printers out there. Roland has printers, Mamaki, HP, that are utilizing white now. So what we're going to show here is layered support. So I'm going to go to my HP printer this time. I'm going to open a job into here. This time we're going to go into a layered job. We're going to create a layered job, and then I'm going to show you an example of opening a job that has layers that we got from Illustrator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open in a couple jobs here, and I'm going to create a layer. So I've got a color job, and then I've got a white layer here, and then I'm going to add in another color job. So this would be an example of a printer that has white in it. That maybe you're printing on a backlit film. So what you're going to do is you're going to print color, and you're going to put white down, and then you're going to print color on top of that, so that it doesn't look washed out. So this is kind of a cool little feature here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select these three jobs. An important thing to note here is they do have to be all the same size. And if I right click and go to create layer job, here I can create my layered job. And we're going to specify, and this is defined by the driver of the printer. So you can see here that my first job is going to be a colored print. My next layer is going to print just white. And my third layer is going to be colors. So you can specify this all within when you create the layer here. So when I hit OK, it creates a layered job. And when I open this up, you can see that we're going to print a colored job, white, and then color again here. Notice on this one that's the same image because white's not always opaque. So we kind of want things to match up on there. So this is creating a layered job. This is something new that we've added into Flexi. So now we're going to close this. I'm going to delete this job out. And this time I'm going to open a job that was created in Illustrator that's already got layers in it. So this job right here, I'm going to take a second to load up in here. And this time we're going to right click on it. And we're going to split job by layers. So you can see that this job already had all those different layers in it. And so this is one thing we've improved in Flexi is adding in jobs that have multiple layers that are coming from different applications in there. So this is a cool feature. Again, it's kind of specific if you have a printer that can do white or metallic or gloss or different things on there. This layered printing and file support it's really useful for those printers. We're gonna go ahead and delete this job. Another thing that we've added into Flexi 21 has to do with these printers that have metallic, gloss, white, different colors in there. In my experience with printers like this, you set up the job, you hit print, you hope you set everything up right. But when you print it, you see maybe you set up your white layer incorrectly, your gloss, or whatever layer, and it doesn't print right. So then you have to go back, figure out what you did wrong, reset up the job, and send it again. In Flexi 21, we have a channel preview where you can actually see what the white channel or the gloss or the metallic's going to look like before you print it. So here we're going to open up a job and we're going to add white into it. So the other thing we've done is we've added the ability to manage a white channel or a gloss channel within the job without creating that separate layer. So in here, we are going to open up this picture again. And this is just a JPEG image, I believe. So there's no white in here. This is just a color image. So on this job, we can actually add white in here within the job itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the printer options here. And right here under white type, and this depends on the driver for the printer, we can change how we want to do white here. So you can see these different options. If I do substrate, our new channel previews right here. So I can select that. I can select on preview output channel, and if I select white, the black is what's going to print white here. So you can see before you print the job what that white's going to look like. You don't have to mess up media. You know exactly how it's going to print. It'll show you all the different channels, how it's going to print on there, which is kind of a cool feature as well. So this is really neat. This channel preview is a great new feature in Flexi 21. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the white channel here, and I'm going to show you these different options that we have. So on the white type, we did substrate, which is going to fill it to your artboard. If we do undercolor and go to this channel preview, you can see how it's going to change the white on there. So there's all sorts of different options under here. If we go to fill color and to our output channel, you can see how the white's going to change depending on what we select on here. So this is a great tool for like DTF, direct to film printers, direct to garment printers, where you can change how it's printing that white in there. Again, you can use this channel preview if you've got gloss or different things like that. So really a cool new feature in Flexi 21. Another feature that we've added in here, I believe I can do it on this one. We're gonna open up this job again, and we added a new feature in here called cut along page border. So if you get a job like this one here, and you just want to print these in decals, and you just want to cut a simple page border on here, you didn't create a cut contour line or anything like that. Here now in Production Manager, on the second tab here, we've got cut along page border. So here I can select that. I can put, if I want an offset on here, if I want it right up against that, the print itself. Why is it not showing there? So this is a new feature that it seems kind of silly, but a lot of people really wanted this, and it saves a lot of time being able to put that right in Production Manager itself. So going along with that cutting on here, another thing that we've added into Flexi 21 is support for GraphTech barcodes. The GraphTech FC9000 has a barcode reader on it, which is really cool. If I'm going to create a job here, and I'll show you how this works. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to open up a job that has cut data in it. We're going to open up a different one here. Let's see if I can find it. We're going to open up this decal that I created. So this decal's got, it's just a printed decal. I got my cut line on it. So I'm going to hit my print here. And you can already see over here the barcode for the GraphTech on here. So I've specified it's going to my GraphTech. I can select my registration marks here. And then if I go to options, this is my barcode right here. So if I turn that off, there's no barcode on here. If I come in here and put in my multiple copies, it's just got my standard registration marks. If I have a cutter FC9000 or some of the HP latex cutters, they have these awesome barcode readers in them now. So if I use this barcode on here, there's some different options on here. We're going to go to Roll Media and hit OK. The cool thing about this is now I can print this, and all I have to do to cut it is load it in my cutter, hit one button on the cutter, it reads this barcode right here, and it queues up and starts cutting the job for you. I haven't had a lot of experience with the graph tag, but if I go to my HP latex cutter, which US Cutter sells the HP latex cutter bundles, I really like this workflow. I've used this quite a bit, and this works really cool. First time I saw this, I was blown away. So HP latex cutters, their barcode's a little bit different. So we print this out, and then what you do is you load the media in there, and you put your cutter right here. You hit one button, it comes up, finds this barcode, reads it, reads the registration marks, then reads this registration, this barcode, and starts cutting. It finds the job in Flexi, queues it up, and starts cutting. Here's where it gets really cool. If you sent multiple jobs over here, so you sent 6 different jobs on here, they're all decals, they all have the barcode, and you printed them one after another. The way the HP latex cutter works, it finds this, cuts this job, and then it'll start looking for another barcode over here. So if it finds another job, it queues up that and starts cutting again. And I've seen like 10 or 15 jobs cut in here. The cool thing is that it's re-registering after each job. So you're not getting off on your cuts, and you can print a lot and then cut a lot. This is really a cool workflow. So Flexi 21, we added the support for the GraphTech barcodes on there, as well as the HP print and cut, which is also the Summa cutters on there. So that is a really cool feature. If you've never seen that work before, look it up online. It is pretty cool. So we've gone over that. Another thing that I'm going to go over, the last kind of new feature we added in Flexi, and then I'll open it up for some questions, and then I'll show you a few kind of things that we've always had in Flexi that are really cool features. Another thing we added in Flexi 21 is data backup. So this one's really easy. If we go to File, Edit, and Preferences, we've added a backup right here. So if you've ever had to reload your Flexi, it gets rid of all your preferences, all your profiles, your printers, your cutters. You have to reload that in there. So now we added a data backup on here. All you have to do is hit the backup button. You can select what information you want to back up. You can specify it in a specific spot. We have a directory already set up that we can do that on there. So this is going to save like my jig templates, my variable data templates that I set up. So this is kind of a cool feature on here. The nice thing about it is too, when you load Flexi 21, if you do upgrade to it, when you're loading it, it's going to ask you if you want to load previous data from a previous installation. So if you had Flexi 12 or 19, you can direct it to that, and it's going to load that information for you. In the past, we always had to load that manually, so that's kind of a cool feature too, especially if you've ever had to reload Flexi. So those are all the kind of the new Flexi 21 features. Josh, have you gotten any comments or questions that maybe we could answer before we go on to some other features?
So I don't have any questions right here, but when you were putting in the text, like when you were putting things as like, you know, the state, the phone number and stuff, and then you had it on the Excel sheet, does everything need to be in the exact same case? And, you know, like say if you've got a capital S on states and then the rest is lowercase, does that need to be the same there too? That way that it will interchange, or can I just have it like all lowercase in one and then, you know, like all uppercase in the other?
Yeah, it has to match the spreadsheet. So I'm just going to do this one real quick. And if I load data on here, see how it didn't auto-populate it right there?
Yeah.
So then I would have to go in here and go to, oh, I did it JSON. So you would have to go to name there, and you kind of map it over there. So if it was all lowercase, it has to match how you have it on the spreadsheet. but it reads what's in the spreadsheet and then allows you to map it to what you put on there.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Yes. And now, is this still subscription based, or is there a way to purchase the entire program?
Yes, so we offer both. We do subscriptions, which are $59.99 a month,
Mm-hmm.
or we still have what we call traditional or perpetual licenses. So I was gonna bring it up at the end, but right now we are offering a special 40% discount on anybody who has a Flexi 12 and older who'd like to upgrade to 21, and you can purchase those through US Cutter. So that's kind of what prompted our Flexi 21 webinar here, but that is available at 40% discount on upgrades. And that goes to a license that you own. That's not a subscription-based license.
Okay. Now, someone here, they received a HP version when they purchased their HP printer. What benefits would I have upgrading to, from that HP version to the actual full?
Yeah, so it depends on what version you have. If it's an older HP version, those are based on like 19 or 12 as well. If you buy a new HP right now, it comes with 21, but you would get like the variable data, the ability to rip and print at the same time, the 64-bit, all those different things on there. So there are upgrade paths for the HP version. The HP version, the other thing it does is it only has drivers for HP. So if you had an HP and a Roland or HP and a Mamaki, if you went to branded, you can add those different drivers on there. But the person that asked that, they can reach out to me. I can tell you what version of HP you have. And if it's an older version, upgrading would get you these features that we just went over.
Okay. All right. That's all the questions I've got right here, and I don't see anything else in the chat. Anything else you wanted to talk about?
Okay, so I'm going to show you. Yeah, there's a couple other features that are in older versions of Flexi that we've had that I think are great features that I think are very valuable to know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open back up my auto serialization decal that we did. And I forgot what it is, but this is well, actually I can look it up here. So this is, say the customer comes in and they want to match this to Pantone 485C. A couple things we can do here in Flexi. First, I'm going to show you this, our color palette down here. If you right click on this and go to Open Table and then click on Library, we have these library of color charts here. So I opened up my Pantone library and opened up this, which is going to bring a big chart on here. We also have like Oracle. So if you are, if you wanted to design in all 631 colors, we've got all those different palettes on here. So I'm going to open up, we're going to go to the Pantone one just to show you this. This is a big chart here. I think it was solid coded. We can pull it up here and we can open up here and I can scroll through all the Pantone numbers here. So what I did is I went down to Pantone 485 and put it in here. And so the customer, we're trying to match this. So this is how we open the palettes, but how do we actually print and get that right color? So we went and printed this and we match it up to our Pantone book, and it's not quite Pantone 485. So how do we get that color? And we have a great tool in Flexi on how to doing this. So what we do is we go to Production Manager here. We're going to go to the default properties of the print. Oops, that was the cutter. We're going to go to the default properties of the printer. And if we go to the Color Management tab here, there's this button called Color Mapping. If we select on Color Mapping, I already loaded it in here, but what you do is you're going to load the job in here. So it brings up and says that it saw the Pantone color 485 on there. So if I double click on this, this gives me my CMYK values and a matching swatch. So what we're going to do is we're going to print the swatch first. So if I hit print swatch and hit OK here, I'm going to come over here. We've got to close this down. And what it does is it prints this cool chart right here. So I believe there's 64 different variations of that red here. And the middle number, so 44 on this axis right here, represents the color that it actually printed. So it prints all these variations of it. We take out our Pantone chart and say that it matches 6.5 here. So what we're gonna do is we go back in here. Keep going on the cutter instead of that. So default job properties, our color management tab, our color mapping tab, we open the file, and then here we're gonna put 6 and 5. And when we hit update color here, watch what it does to my CMYK values. It changes these values, and what happens, the reason we call this spot color mapping is that if you have a spot color in Flexi, it reads that name. So when you do your cut contour or Pantone 485, it reads that name and it knows that it needs to print it this way because we told it to. So now anytime that I create anything and use a spot color called Pantone 485, it's gonna print that 6.5 that we chose there. So instead of what it originally printed over here, it's gonna print what we told it to, and you're gonna hit that red every time. So the other thing that you can do is you can actually change this and you can call it whatever you want. So if it's Coke Red or University of Utah Red, you can then create a spot color and you map it to this. And this is a great tool. I'll show you another trick because it took me like 6 times doing this before I could figure it out without looking at the directions. If we go back to Flexi, we open up this cloud page over here and go to our knowledge base and type in spot color mapping. Under custom spot color mapping, this is going to walk you through that whole process here. So opening it up, this is the chart that it prints. Again, 4.4 is the default value. And then we're choosing the correct value we want it to print on there. This tool is super cool. When I used to have my sign shop, I'd come into Flexi, I'd go here and I'd create a 1-inch box, and then I'd come up here and change my color values on it. And it was just very take a lot of time to do. So that tool is one of my favorite tools in Flexi. One other thing that I did want to show you, because I know a lot of US customers do this. A lot of people have different rips out there. So there's Onyx, there's VersaWorks, there's Mamaki Rasterlink. And we can use just the design side of Flexi because the Flexi design is very easy to do all this stuff. So I'm going to open up another decal here. I thought I opened it. Let's see. So we're going to open up this decal again. And if we want to use just a Flexi design, but we've got to roll in like a BN20 and we're using VersaWorks, if you have Flexi, you'll get this nice little send to VersaWorks button up here. And this is pretty cool. We can drop it in the A or B queue and hit send here. And if I open up VersaWorks and open up this job, then I've got, it recognizes my cut lines and everything. So then I can output right out of VersaWorks here. I can put in my copies and work with different programs. So Flexi is just really very intuitive, I guess I would say. When I was a tech setting up different programs and that, it's just very easy to use. Another kind of cool thing in Flexi that a lot of people don't know about is a lot of questions we get is, it looks this way on my screen, but it's printing out different. So we went through the spot color mapping on how to get those colors exact. Another tool that we have that is really useful is this soft proof right here. And you can see the difference here. So on my screen, it looks like this. And if I hit this soft proof, this is what it's going to look like on the printer. And the reason that this happens here is our monitor displays millions upon millions of colors, whereas our printers have a limited color gamut. So what this button does is it emulates the printer and its color gamut. Now you do have to set this up for it to work correctly. And again, if we go to edit and color settings, then what we can do is we're going to select our printer. So I have my HP printer on here, and then what you're going to do is you're going to select the profile that you're using. So I'm going to select my cast vinyl here and hit OK. And by setting that up, what this button does is it emulates that profile on there. Ooh, that one did it kind of funky on there. But anyways, this soft proof button, that's a good one to play around with. Again, you want to set it up by going to edit and color settings and tell it the printer. I think this is an incorrect printer. But anyway, you set up that printer and then the right profile on there, and then that soft proof, and it's going to emulate what the printer does. So that's going to save you a little bit of media too, instead of guessing what it's going to look like when you print on your printer. So there's a ton of stuff in Flexi. This just barely scratches the surface. Hopefully it gave you a preview of the new features we have in Flexi 21. There's some really cool features there. Again, the variable data, 64-bit, increasing the speed, our jig template, layered support, the output channel support, cut along page boundaries, and those barcode supports are those really new features in there. So that's about all the time we had. I will send it back over to you, Josh. I don't know if we had any more questions come in.
Yeah, we had one question. They asked, about compatibility with some of our lower end cutters like the MH, Laser Point, and whatnot. And Flexi does not work with those. It's for the higher end cutters. So if you have the MH, the SC2, or the Laser Point 3, it will not work with them. So yeah, that was the last question that I had. And I sent the answer out, and then I also just responded there for you. So thank you very much, Jason. I do appreciate you taking the time to come through and guide us through the new Flexi features. Just a reminder to everybody, we will be sending out a video of this on Thursday. So if you missed anything or if you wanted to see it again, you can see those again. Just sign up for our newsletter and we'll have that out to you there, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also contact Jason directly if you have some questions for him, or you just need some help with Flexi. He's very open and very serious about helping people. So, he's put his information up there on screen, and I'll go ahead and give it to you again. If you want to speak to him directly on the phone, it's 801-707-9160. And then if you want to email him, it's jasons@thinksai.com. Again, that's jasons@thinksai.com. So, anything else you'd like to say before we go, Jason?
No, I appreciate you guys logging in and listening to me talk the last hour here about Flexi. I've been doing this a long time, and I think there's a lot of value in the new Flexi 21. I know software is hard. I've been out there before with older versions, have a computer crash and have to get a new version. And we're always playing catch up with Windows, trying to make Flexi work on Windows.
Oh, yeah.
So we're constantly adding new features in there so that it's adding value on there. So some of these features I hope you guys find valuable. And like Josh said, if you have more questions about how some of these features work, or maybe even something else that I didn't go over on Flexi, I'm always happy to help out. I've been out there, I've owned the sign shop, I've been where you guys are, and I know it can be frustrating. And like Josh said, I'm always happy to help. It helps us learn how you guys are using it out there and helps us make the program better too. So thanks, Josh and US Cutter, and thanks everybody. I hope you all have a great day.
Yeah, same to you, everyone. Have yourself a wonderful day, and thank you all so much for taking the time to come out. Take care now.
Thanks again.